Today, we're going to see parabolas, focus, and directrix. Well, the main idea here is that we can use the focus point and a directrix to write an equation for parabolas. Now, this line in blue right here, this is what we're going to call parabola. It has that U shape that you have seen before. Now, here are two new ideas, which is the focus, which is a point, and directrix, which is always going to be some kind of a line. Now, what's so important about these two is that it doesn't matter at what point on the parabola that you choose, the distance from this parabola to the focus and also to the directrix, that distance, it's always going to be equal. So that is why it's so important, the focus and the directrix, because this is just a point such that if you choose any point in the parabola, let's choose this point. If we find the distance from the parabola to the focus, that distance is going to be the same from the parabola to the directrix, always. That distance will always be the same. And that's why it's so important. Now, this is just the general case, but now we can use this idea where the distance from the focus to the parabola to the directrix, it's the same. We can use that to actually find out equations for such a parabola. Now, how do we find that equation? Well, here's a little bit of a vocabulary. It says a parabola is defined as a set of points equidistant from a line, which is what we just said, which is pretty much saying the distance from the focus to the parabola is the same as the distance from the directrix to the parabola. It's pretty much what we just explained on the previous image. Now here, if we really want to find out an equation for a parabola, we have this handy formula, which is right here. To find the equation for a parabola using the focus and directrix, we can use many things to find those equations, but here we're going to use the focus and the directrix. We can use this equation here, y equals 1 over 2b minus k multiplied by x minus a to the second plus 1 half bk. Now, what is all this? What's the meaning of all these variables? Well, when it comes to the focus, we're going to use this point. For focus, it's going to be AB, which remember, a focus, this is a point. So if it's a coordinate point, it has an X and a Y coordinate. So we're going to use the X and the Y coordinate, and we're going to call it A and B. And for the directrix, we're just going to use a constant K. Now, why is it a constant? Well, because we said here that the directrix, it's a straight line. So in this case, notice that this line, it's always going to be on the -2 value here. So in this case, k will be equal to -2 because this is where the line always passes through, which, if we're going to be using the equation here, the directrix is k. Okay, so notice that if you want to find out the equation, all you need is the coordinate point of the focus and a value for the directrix. Okay, so now let's actually put that into some examples here. Well, it says use the following information to find, well, missed it, to find an equation for a parabola, and we're going to simplify the answer. Okay, so let's see, what do we have here? Remember, all we need is just the focus and the directrix, which is exactly what they're giving us here. Notice that the focus is at 0, 8. So in this case, A is the x value of the focus, which in this case is 0. B is the y value of the focus, which is 8. Now, for k, this is the directrix, and we can see that the directrix has a value y equals -8. So in this case, k equals -8. So we have A, we have B, and we have K. We have an equation. So if you want to find out the actual equation, all we got to do is just plug it in. So we're going to plug those values, B for 8, K for -8, and A for 0. So let's do that here. So it says y equals 1 over 2 parentheses b, but we know that the value of b is 8. So we're going to have parentheses 8 minus k, so that's negative 8. So we're going to have minus 8, close the parentheses, x minus a. So we're going to have x minus a is 0. So x minus 0 to the second plus 1 half times b plus k, but we know that b is 8 and k is negative 8. Perfect. This looks like a mess, but for this is our second example. We're not going to worry about it yet. So all we got to do is just simplify this. But let's see. Let's take it one at a time. So we're going to have y equals 1 over 2. Well, let's see what we have here. 8 minus 8. Well, we know that a negative and a negative, this creates a positive. So now it becomes 8 plus 8, which is 16. So all we're doing right now is just simplifying our expression here. X minus 0, well, that's just x. So we're going to have x to the second plus 1 half, 8 minus 8, so that's 0. All right. So let's see, can we simplify this a little bit further? Yeah. Notice here, 1 half times 0. Well, this is 0, so we're not even going to write it. So now we're going to have y equals 1 over 2 times 16. This is 32. X to the second, well, it's just x to the second. Plus 0, but we don't add 0. So that means that this is your final equation. This is the equation for the parabola such that the focus is 0, 8, and the directrix is negative 8. Now, notice that there's two ways to write this answer here. This can be our final answer, or it is our final answer. But you can also write this as y equals x squared divided by 32. They're the same. It's just different ways that we would like to write our answer. If you write it this way or this way, it's the same. You might see it this way or you might see it this way, but just know that those two are equivalent to each other. All right. Now, let me bring down the equation here because we're going to need this formula again. Because now, in the first example here, they explicitly told us, well, the focus is this and the directrix is this. Well, there's times where they don't tell you exactly what the focus or the directrix is, but they do give you a graph and you need to identify what the focus and what the directrix is from the graph. So, but still, we still want to find out that equation. So what we do here, so this is the parabola that we want to write the equation of. This isolated point right here, this is our focus point. So here we can see that our focus is at 0, comma, negative 3. Well, let's forget the equal here. And the directrix, this is equal to y equals negative 3. Okay, so we got the focus right here, and we got the directrix over here. That's all we needed. So knowing that the focus is this and directrix is this, let's find the value for A, B, and K. So A is the x value of the focus, which is going to be 0. B is the y value of the focus, which is going to be negative 3. And K is just the directrix, which in this case has a value of 3. All right, we know A, we know B, we know K, we have a formula. We're going to do the same. Let's plug that in. So we have y equals 1 over 2 b minus k So that becomes negative 3 minus 3. Open parenthesis, x minus a, but we know that a is 0, so that's good. To the second exponent, plus 1 half b plus k, but we know that b is minus 3, and we know that k is 3, so minus 3 plus 3. All right, perfect. Pretty good scenario here. All right, so again, it looks like a mess, but we got to simplify this. So let's see. First, let's work with the parentheses. So we got y equals 1 over 2, negative 3 minus 3, so that's minus 6. Parentheses, x minus 0, well, that's just x. Bring down the second exponent, plus 1 half, and again, negative 3 plus 3, so this becomes a 0 again. I'm going to pause here, and I'm actually going to say that this is not always going to be the case. This is not always going to be 0. It just happens that in the two examples that we have here, it is equal to 0, but it's not always equal to 0. You might have a number here, and you might have to multiply by 1/2, but in this case, it's 0. So that makes our life easier. So let's continue simplifying. So we have y equals 1 over 2 minus 6, so that's minus 12, x squared. But now 1/2 times 0, well, this is 0, so we're not going to add it. All right, so this is our final answer. This, if we plug this in, if we graph this, we are going to obtain, oops, I'm sorry about that. If we graph this equation, we are going to obtain this parabola right here. Now, there's different ways, which is exactly what we wanted. We wanted an equation that will give us this parabola, so this is it. Now, there's actually 3 ways to rewrite this. You can write it as it's shown right here, or you can put the negative in front, or let me move this here. You put the negative in front and the x squared on the top. You can write it either or, but this is you will see this the most. So let's get used with this kind of a format here. All right. So now, hopefully I was helpful, and here is your entrance ticket. Write down an equation for a parabola given the following focus and given the following directrix.